Hi, Kambua. How are you? I have two kids. I really wish I could have more, to be honest. They're delightful. They're the best people I know. My journey to motherhood, oh my goodness, girl, what can I say? When I was a lot younger, I read a Daniel Steele book where the main hero ended up living a long life and she got married when she was 50 and then she got a kid and somehow that had internalized in my mind that that's exactly what I'm going to do. It's going to work out like that. I'm just going to live my life. I'm going to do so many crazy things. And then when I'm 50, magically a man will appear and the child will somehow come along. But my journey to motherhood was quite different. I was very young, 25, 26, found myself married with two kids back to back, barefoot pregnant. I don't know how it happened. Uh, God works in mysterious ways. It was really fun. I don't think I could have done it any other way. If I had waited, it wouldn't have worked. They're 12 and the second born is turning 11 in August. So, yeah. Parenting. The Christian principles are strong in this one. The force is strong in me. I try to parent according to what I read in the Bible. But then I also noticed that parenting in the Bible isn't straightforward. You know, there isn't much that the Bible tells you do this, that, that. It's generalities. Don't what's the word I'm looking for? Let me just say what I'm thinking. Don't piss off your child. Don't frustrate them. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't think there is one specific way to be a good parent. We all have different journeys. There are people who work far from home, that they still make it work. There are people who are stay-at-home moms. There are people who work a lot. But you can figure it out and stick to some foundational principles at work. It's so crazy. Sometimes values, the things that are instilled in you, it's not like they're telling you, this is what I want you to be. You get what I'm saying? It's just a way of life that you have to sit down and sort of be with yourself to realize, oh, that's how my parents were. So I can't be very eloquent with the values that were instilled in me. All I can tell you is, yeah, my mom raised me up in the Christian way. She used to read me the children's Bible. I remember clearly, being read for the Bible and thinking, oh, damn, I'm going to hell. And I was 6 years old or 7 years old because I'm like, I don't think I can do these things. I don't think I can go by the 10 Commandments. But those were the values that were instilled in me. There was a lot of, holding on to family. That's one of the things, don't live in a cocooned life, which is good for me because if you left me to my own devices, I'd be in a cave somewhere alone, hunting and roasting it on a fire pit and nobody bother me, growing my hair wild in dreadlocks. But I always remember that. I remember that my parents, they were so close to their siblings and their mother, and they tried to instill that in me, and I'm trying in my own way. It's interesting that the marriage started, the children started when he had begun politics. My firstborn was like 1 year old when he was nominated MP. So it's something that it's the only thing I know, right? The challenges that come with it, I guess I never realized how busy he was until he got busier. When he became governor, it was crazy. I remember thinking, oh, finally, we can relax after the elections and all that. Sometimes I joke that I'm the only one who has proof of life. Everybody else just smells him, his cologne. Oh, yeah, dad has been here. Or did dad come? That's the kids. So it's interesting to compare it to my own childhood where my father was fairly present. He was a civil servant. He didn't have crazy hours. So he was a type of dad who came home and sat with us for dinner. But again, like I told you, I don't think there's any specific way that kids have to be raised. So I don't begrudge my husband's inability to come home for dinner and sit with the kids because he has other ways of meeting them and being there for the kids. So that was challenge number one. Another challenge is, like I told you, I like to live my cocoon life. And it's fairly easy for me as an adult to just avoid news or information that I don't want to read about. So if somebody is dissing my husband online, I don't read it. And my friends and family know that they shouldn't send it to me. They don't bother. So I can live in that cocoon. But I forgot that my children don't live in that cocoon. They might not go looking for the information, but their friends do. Their friends Google their dad. And I'm like, why were you Googling your dad or Googling me? I was like, I wasn't. It was my friend. I'm like, oh, goodness. So I realized I can't protect them. I can't shield them from that life. I have to be the one who sits them down and gives them information as straight as it is. I told them, you know what? One day you might hear something incredibly weird, like your mom is a man, politics like that, it happens, and you should be able to come to me and ask me, Mom, are you a man? And I will tell you the truth. No, don't worry, it's this and this and this. Or if the truth is otherwise, I'll break it down for them so that they can trust that I'm the one who's going to give them the proper information. I'm not going to hide things for them. They're growing up in a different way, and it's okay. Yeah. Any other challenge I can mention? I don't know. It might come up. But those are the two that come to mind. First of all, personally, I've avoided the spotlight, and I do it because my kids are young. So that makes it a lot easier when we are going out, that if it's just with me and them, nobody's going to come up to us. Nobody's going to be like, oh, Mama County, throw some 20K to me, my school fees, my this. It's a lot different when they go out with their dad. Sometimes you'll just see them standing in the corner bored. Oh, dad is with Strihu. Dad is talking to the citizenry, But because I have basically shied off, I don't even think I have a Twitter, do I? It's X now. Yeah, I don't. I don't have anything. You cannot find me. It makes it easier for them to just walk around. I take them to town just to show them this is town, guys. You need to know these things, and nobody's going to bother us. So that has sort of dribbled off to them. In fact, I like to tell them that they're the reason people come up to me knowing that I'm the first lady because they're more famous. You guys are everywhere. You do things with your dad. What's wrong with you? They spot you and then they're like, by logic, that must be the missus. And I'm like, can't go anywhere with you anymore. So there's that. There's, of course, just figuring out different ways of making sure that they can spend time with their dad. It doesn't have to be the cut and dried, morning drop-offs, evening playing with the kids, dinner, no. So I encourage the father to just take them to work with them. And my husband would be like, but it's rough, it's crazy, it's big crowds, etc, etc. I'm like, but how else? This is good. This is experience, And they don't mind it. So they go to work with their dad sometimes over the weekends. They'll go with him, see what he does. And I think that's good. I think that's something I would have wanted my parents to do more with me. My parents sort of thought that I would learn certain things magically, but I'm like, no, you should have taken me to the farm and given me the djembe and I would have learned. Or you should have walked with me to this and that when you were doing it and I would have understood. So I encourage that with my kids. What else can I say I do? Yeah, that's basically it. And of course, just that open interaction of just ask me. If anything pops up, just ask. It's okay. There are. One of the things that I did last year, I went for the celebrations of Kidogo. Kidogo is an organization that sort of has this franchise model for childcare, where, in the slums, in informal areas, you sort of just leave your kid with a childcare provider. It's not a real safe establishment. It's just somebody's home, but they've streamlined it. They train these women. They've sort of increased their capacity for entrepreneurship, made sure that the places are more safe, and all the things you want to see in a daycare provider, things that the things that stimulate children, etc., etc. So when I went for those celebrations and I listened to the women, I thought it was very interesting. It's easy to ignore that part of life. Like we have our house helps, but and some house helps have their house helps, but how about lower in the economic rank who's taking care of their children? And even coming back up to us, there's a sort of we take it for granted that okay, I've had my baby, now I have to go back to work, so I'm just going to hire this complete stranger who might be very young, never took care of a child in her life, and trust this bundle of joy in her hands. These people are not trained. They need capacity building. So that's for the house helps all the way down to the daycares. I thought that was interesting. And of course, I've joined Zuri Zilani Foundation. Ashley, the founder, she had an experience with her firstborn. She had preeclampsia, and there's just a lot of lack of knowledge sometimes, even in these big hospitals, about what's going on with you, what are the risks. And you can imagine people who are young, they're just starting this journey of motherhood, and then bam, this huge thing happens to you and you don't know how to handle it, and suddenly you're dealing with lots of hospital bills. So she started an organization that sort of creates awareness around preeclampsia, making sure that people know what to look out for, making sure that there are support groups for mothers, which is a lot like what you guys are doing. It's great. We all need support groups. I mean, I remember being in the hospital not having any idea how to breastfeed. And I thought, this is normal. I thought this is, everybody has done this from time immemorial, but I can't do it. So we need such groups to teach us. And I want to be involved in that in my own weird, quiet, non-internet access way. Yeah. How do I take care of myself? That's not something you have to ask me. I've never had a problem with self-care. I do what I need to do. Even when my kids were babies, if I felt like I needed to watch a movie, I would bundle the boy up in a sling and I'd go watch my movie. And people would look at me like, if that baby cries, yeah, I'm like, I know my child. Just stick a boob in him and he'll be fine. And I will watch my movie, or I'll take my time off, or I'll travel if I need to travel. But that's not to say that these are things that every mother should do. I think just do the simple things that you can, even if it's just sitting down with yourself and writing about your day. It helps. It helps you decompress and unpack the things that have happened. It helps you analyze small things that maybe you should be paying more attention to. Yeah, you don't. I feel as if in Kenya and maybe Africa, we've grown up with this whole superwoman sort of image of motherhood, where the mother literally does everything. She has a job, she has a business, she has relatives she's taking care of, and she has her babies. And yeah, it's okay not to be everything. It's okay. And if you want to be that, do it. It's okay too, but take time for yourself, is all I'm saying. I think the first step is sort of analyzing, why do you think you have to be everything to everyone? Who gave you the idea that for you to be valuable, you have to have 20 arms outstretched doing everything that you possibly can? I've come to realize in my adulthood that nobody's paying attention to you as much as you think, you know? I mean, even the relatives who come asking you for help, if you can't give it to them, they move on. They get assistance everywhere. You don't have to be God to them. And I guess that's it. You are nobody's God. You are just who you are. You can do what you can. So yeah, for me, it's that first step. What gave you the idea that your value is inculcated in everything you can offer? It's not. It's not. I believe strongly that, if God created you, if you're here on this planet, it means that he thought the idea of you, just the simple idea of you, was just so good to pass up that you should be here. You don't have anything to prove. We can all serve, of course, that's essential. But Don't go thinking that you have to prove something to people who aren't even hyper focused on what you're doing. Yeah. Yeah. It's like the mirror. I mean, we all look at ourselves in the mirror, but there's nobody, no one who looks at us that closely. Nobody spots the weird wrinkle, nobody spots the pimple. It's just us. Yeah. Girl, I don't know. The legacy I want to leave behind, I'm sure the idea of it will develop as I grow. Recently, my husband and his sisters, they are arranging a memorial for their late mom. And so we wanted to do a documentary on her life. And I just sat down with my sister-in-laws and just asked them, just give me stories about your mother. And she died when they were quite young, but it's still, her life had a great impact on them. And what I loved about the stories they were giving is how individual it was. You, it's almost like they were describing different people, but in a different person, but in a nice way. So the one, sister-in-law, Chep, would say, Mom told me it's okay to be average, and I've stuck with that. My husband would be like, what? She never said any such thing. She was all like, but it's because she was meeting people at where they were. And I loved the idea of that. I love the idea that my kids would have that individual experience with me where I allowed them to be who they were. That's the legacy I want to live with my children, that I allowed their individuality, and I want them to have good stories about me. I don't want to have this hands-off sort of stoic relationship with their mother. I want them to know me. I want them to, remember that time mom did this? She was crazy. I'd love to be remembered in such a way. With the children of Kenya, it's the same idea. I really prize individuality. I prize an Afrocentric sort of viewpoint. And I would love it if Kenyans and Africans sort of sink into that. If I don't know if I can explain what I mean, but it's an idea that has followed me for a long time. I want people to be who they are, you know? I hate walking down the street and feeling as if I'm looking at cookie cutter versions of everybody. So if I could do something, whether it's through filmmaking, storytelling, or even just being with the kids of Nairobi and maybe of Kenya, that makes them feel that they can go forward to a journey that is different from everybody else's. Not that I have to be the lawyer and accountant and medical doctor, but I can be who I want to be and it works. Then I feel like that I would have left a good legacy in Kenya. I think the problem with Kenya right now is our economy doesn't really allow for free spirits, And I believe I am one. I believe if I lived in another country, I could decide, this month I'm taking time off and I'm going to be a waiter because I want to see what that experience is like. And then I'm going to write about it. But that doesn't necessarily happen in Kenya. But I look forward to a Kenya where everything held constant, you can be the person that is anything. You can be the farmer without thinking, I have to be a farmer of 100 acres, otherwise my kids won't go to school. No. You can be a person selling fruits, at the bystand, and you're happy about that job. And the government is taking care of you. The government is taking care of your children so that you can just be.